Okay. Thank you for attending the webinar. We're excited to show you what we have. I'm Niken Patel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Neuron7. And the Neuron7 team has been working pretty hard for years, trying to solve specific issues in the service world that can be solved using AI and NLP, right? So that's what we have been focused on in terms of our company. We've had a good couple of decades of working in the customer service and CRM world. And so think about Neuron7 as accumulation of everything that we have learned as a team over the last 20 years working in this industry. And we are super excited to kind of present this new category to our customers. We're seeing excellent results, not just on the technology, but also on the business value that we bring to the table. And that is the reason why we came up with this particular topic, where we wanted to kind of give an overview of how AI is really transforming the customer service journey every step of the way, across every channel, across simple to complex issues, and so on and so forth. So think about this webinar as more of an overview where you can get an idea of our technology, idea of what is possible now in the world with this particular category. And then you can drill down and start on each and every step from there. So let's kind of dive right in. I'm going to show you our approach, what we are trying to solve, and then spend a lot of time showing you the actual demo of our products and how we touch each step of the journey. So I think here is where we are at in the customer service world, right? I think customers have an extremely high expectation from every single brand or company that they work with. 82%, according to Salesforce's survey, 82% of all customers expect even complex problems to be solved by one person, the first person that they speak to, and quickly, right? And this goes for any asset class, any industry that customers are a part of, right? So customer expectations are through the roof. And what is really getting increasingly challenging, and these statements that we have here are real world statements that we constantly hear from customer service executives that are working at manufacturers, that are working at BPO companies. Some of you are in the business of actually providing customer service, or in the service world themselves, and the businesses around the service world. And here are the things that we keep on hearing, right? I'm on the hook to improve customer service metrics, but we have very, very complicated products and just not enough people who understand those products, right? My best people are leaving and taking with them years of expertise and tribal knowledge. And this particular one has been exacerbated significantly over the past few years, especially with the aging population that is there in the US. We see uptime is critical. So think med device companies, think high-tech device companies. There is a lot of things, including the router of my home. There are things that we just cannot live without, and they need to be up and running at any given point in time. And so when the problem arises, the clock starts. Whether a brand or a company was able to provide resolution on the first call is probably when the device goes down, or when an asset goes down, or whether your software is not working. That is probably the most important factor that determines the customer satisfaction. How quickly were you able to get me back up and running? And the last one is probably as universal as it gets. We have messy data in too many places. I don't know where to begin to clean it. And even though we want to use technology like you guys have, we don't know where to start. So this is kind of a pretty good overview of what our customers are facing. So if I kind of zero down and say, well, if you are in a complex service environment, what are the things that make delivering service so challenging? Number one is what I call the problem of plenty, right? There is a lot of complexity in the world. Complex products are coming down the pipe constantly, right? So if you are serving a whole bunch of products that are complex already, that is just going to get worse and worse. And I, one thing that I cannot get off my head is a description of one of our customers. The way they describe that to us is, we have 1,000 product models, Niken. Our company and our service department, which is 500 people strong, cannot be an expert in 1,000 product models, because if you take 50 or 60 errors per model, we are at 50,000 issues and failures across these 1,000 models. So now I have to be an expert on my team across 500 people, has to be an expert in 50,000 issues and failures. Take 5 resolution steps, and now we are at 250,000 possibilities, which is too much for a human mind. And this complexity is coming in the way of us delivering first call resolutions, uptime, every single service metric. So that is true. And this world is getting more and more complex, and there are going to be more and more devices and assets that are going to get complex in products. The second is turnover. The job role of a customer service rep or technician is the #1 job role that turns over. It's not accountants, it's not scientists. The #1 job role with natural turnover in the world is customer service. And this is being getting into urgent status with the great resignation that we saw that the world went through over the last 3-4 years, and a silver tsunami, as they call it, which is just the baby boomers that are getting to retirement age. Just that particular factor is going to have a whole bunch of technicians who are very, very knowledgeable out of the companies and into retirement age. And so that is becoming a super important thing that impacts service metrics. We have a customer who has got 10,000 field service agents, and almost 20% of them are going to retire in the next 2 years just because of age. So that is one big one. And then knowledge and data, how to solve issues, is incredibly spread out at companies. The average large Fortune 500 company has more than 200 applications. Smaller companies have 73. And so we have a scenario today where you have a CRM tool, maybe it's a field service tool that can log a case and tell you what the result is. But the actual problem solving, where the actual problem gets solved, where your people are actually going in to solve problems, is incredibly siloed, right? Some of them may be using specialists that they rely on. Some may be going, you may have created and spent a lot of money creating knowledge articles, and there are constant bulletins that are coming out. You may have a scenario where there is a lot of product manuals to kind of go sift through. Device data is throwing indications of what is wrong with devices and assets. And you may be also relying on past resolutions. How have we solved this particular issue before? And so with the plethora of different siloed places to go hunt for resolutions, what it comes down to, people are still, resolutions, as we call it in the service world, is a very people dependent outcome, right? So you have a very stark difference between somebody who's been there for 20 years, knows your products in and out, and how they are able to solve issues is much, much better compared to somebody who is newer to the company. And so your customer experience on how good did my issue get resolved when I had a failure or a downtime or a simple issue is very dependent on the person that you have on your team, right? And this is the particular area that we are going after. We are on a mission to solve the resolution system of record, or create a resolution system of record within an enterprise that can solve some of the challenges that we spoke about. One last thing that I want to say is, you already have all these challenges, you have all these silos, you have complexity, but at the end of the day, one thing that makes it even more so complex is service by its very nature is across channels, right? And so you don't have customer service that just happens in the call center. It happens everywhere. It happens on your website via self-service portal or chat nowadays. It can happen within a call center. You have a field service organization that is sent at the customer's location. And then even engineering very grudgingly gets involved in service issues. Engineers want to create net new products. They do not want to solve customer issues, but they are pulled in when things get very complex. So these metrics that we speak about need to be deployed and need to be delivered not just in one channel, they have to be achieved across all channels. And so if you think about it, you know, this is your service journey. A typical service journey includes somebody who comes in and is trying to figure out, can I get an answer to a question I have? I don't know a specification of the product, or I don't know what this error means. It could be a bunch of how-to questions. And they try to solve it themselves, right? Customers, and that's what we call tier 0, where customers are trying to get answers to their questions and do in self-service mode, get to some sort of successful resolution. The world is at a point where there is a lot of brands and manufacturers that are focused on a good customer experience by giving this to them. If this does not get solved, then they have no other option but to call your call center. And this is where we go from not a bunch of how-to questions, but there is actually an issue, and there is a bunch of common issues, right? There's an 80-20 rule, or there may be a 60-40 rule. A lot of your issues are around the same thing, and let's call them simple, common, repeating issues that somebody like a Neuron7 should be able to help with. Let's say you did not solve something in self-service mode or in your call center. It's time to escalate, or it's time to basically send somebody down and roll a truck, which is a popular term, where field service is needed. You need to send somebody to the location of the customer. And it could be anything from data centers to med device companies to food processing companies. And we have complex issues going on. Or it may be something that is parts replacement that is needed, and so on and so forth. And now we are going from a how-to question to simple to complex issues, to the point where even all the tiers failed and we have no other option but to bring engineering or manufacturing product folks into the picture. At each point in time, you as a service executive are trying to deliver different metrics, right? You're trying to do as much call deflections, self-service, and success there in a tier 0 environment. In a call center, what's super important is, can I make this person productive? Can I get to first call resolutions? Can we solve the customer's issue in 3 minutes instead of 7? Can we do it the first time around? And in field service, can I go in and not roll a truck? Is there a reason why I absolutely need to spend the $700 it takes to have, from a time as well as a truck perspective, the cost incurred on a field service rep going in at a customer location, spending 3 hours there? And are we going to reduce the parts wastage? So can they use parts to fix things, not to diagnose it? Can they land up at the customer location with the right parts? And then engineering, obviously, you want to save these very heavily paid folks their time. And if you can load balance, you can somehow solve issues with tier 0, tier 1, and tier 2 without bringing engineering into the picture. Not only helps their NPS scores, but it also helps with device uptime. It helps with load balancing, where we are moving left. And that's a big concept. Can we move resolutions left into this entire start to finish? And while you're going through the service journey, right, the turnaround time of issues, whether you solve something after it got escalated to 3 tiers or immediately, that is always there, that drives customer experience and service. So everything we spoke about needs to be achieved in this multi-channel environment, and we have a lot of headwinds around it. This is the world that we live in, and this is where Neuron7 comes in. We actually impact each point of the service journey. And my objective today is to kind of give you a little bit of a taste of how we go from, left, right at each point of this service journey, end to end. Neuron7's differentiation is we are able to help you meet all of these metrics. So let's go into a little bit of how we do it. Like, why does the world need Neuron7 today? Why could it not exist, let's say, 3 years ago? And what is so path-breaking about our technology? So if you think about it, there are 2 sources. So let's assume that we want to basically be at a point. Let's say you want to create a Neuron7 buddy that works and functions to the standards of your top 1% of your enterprise. So We want to create this Neuron7 application, give it to the hand, give it in the hands of every single one of your service personas. And this Neuron7 buddy is as good as your top 1%. If you could duplicate your top 1% person, whoever comes to mind, let's say Neuron7 functions at that particular level of that level standards. There are two sources of intelligence that Neuron7 relies upon to get to that top 1% behavior or success rate. We look at your data and your people. So our starting point is all of your previously solved cases over the last 10 years, irrespective of product. What are the, going back to those 50,000 errors across the 1,000 products? We are very, very good at looking at things like your technician notes, your work order notes, CRM notes, KB articles. So data could be in the form of text or voice, doesn't matter. We actually will be able to process it, how your customers describe different issues. We also look at obviously structured data, which is field service and also CRM. But we also, apart from data, have a very elegant way of capturing the knowledge of your people. So tribal knowledge capture, as we call it, is one of the most important and differentiating features of Neuron7. We feel we have created a product that makes it very seamless and easy to digitize the brain, as we call it, or tap into the brains of your 20-year veterans or your experienced folks at Mass. And what comes out of it is, once we process what's on the left in terms of input, the right in terms of service intelligence in 3 seconds or less, which is our motto, within your CRM tools, we can give you predictions that are 80-90% accurate across things like this incoming case, here are the symptoms. In order to get to success. So think about Neuron7 as your buddy that helps you make accurate decisions based on input from your data and people. And I'll show that to you. But we don't stop there. This service intelligence can be deployed anywhere, right? You can deploy the service intelligence. We are an API-based tool, and you could have Salesforce in your call center. You could have ServiceMax in field service. European teams could be using Microsoft Teams. Doesn't matter which application wants to use these predictions. We are able to provide predictions at the point of action, as we call it, and that application of action is whatever your team is using today. So it's a seamless experience, and obviously we can deploy this to any channel, right? Like I said, it will be self-service, call center, and so on and so forth. So our job is to duplicate the behavior of your top 1% and kind of hand it to every single person. So this kind of shows what Neuron7 does, right? So we have all of the data. Your data could be product manuals, knowledge base, CRM tools, engineering notes, telemetry data. Wherever there is resolution data in whatever format it exists in a heterogeneous data set environment, we are able to ingest it. It is across all kinds of issues. And if you ignore the different modules that we have, what you'll see is you'll see us providing a point of view as to what the resolution is to all of your different people. And this is a two-way arrow, which means whatever I learn from engineering, I will have field service benefit from it. Whatever resolutions happen at the field service tier 2 level, call center can get help from it, and ultimately to customers. So we are constantly learning how your people are resolving issues from your data and from your people, and we are helping the entire enterprise. And that is collective intelligence, as we call it. So if this concept makes sense, let me kind of give you a taste in the next 15-20 minutes of each of these different products and how Neuron7 helps in a day in a life. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start with the basic, right? I'm going to start with the simple how-to questions first and say, well, what is intelligence search? How does Neuron7 help there? And then we go to the call center, then we go to the more complex cases, and so on and so forth. So first, let me show you for the first initial entry, what we call tier 0, when customers are logging in either on your website or it could be your people not discovering special answers. Let's assume that there are 10,000 manuals out there, and I have a bunch of how-to questions, both in a self-service mode where issues can be solved automatically, or where there are answers that need to be given. Let's start with that particular piece in the journey. Um, and I'm going to go into the product called what we call intelligent answers. So there are two products that Neuron7 has, right? Or you can think of us as two different categories. One is search, and the other is prediction products. Prediction products are where we are immediately trying to get you to the to a part or a resolution. But answers is where when your customers are looking for more, I don't know what the specification is for a particular product on the voltage side. Or I'm going to type in a question. There is a 3D printer company we are working with, which constantly has by state different regulations on earthquake zone versus not, and they don't know what the specific, they can't keep all of those things in their head. That is where Neuron7 comes in. So let's basically see a question. So they say, what is the latency of Core 1000? Now, if you think about this, this question is going in, I'm looking for an answer, which is a technical specification called latency. Core 1000 would be a particular product. And everybody in the world is now aware of search. So what is it that we are doing differently? What we are doing differently is we are using search technology, but we are adding AI or NLP to it. So we are basically saying, we want to understand the human context of a question that is asked. And we will give you an answer based on understanding the human question plus search technology. And in the 2 minutes or 2 seconds that you saw us this go in and come back, it not only went to the right manual among 10,000 manuals, it actually went to the right paragraph within the manual, and it could highlight the answer. So it could actually go to the right manual, figure out where the answer lies. And the difference for Neuron7 is two things. One is, what is error 221 versus when does error 221 occur versus what is the right test of error 221. They are three separate human questions, and they deserve three separate human answers, right? You can't just highlight error 221. If you go look at what is happening today in your service worlds, you will see that error 221 is highlighted just like a simple keyword search. I have hundreds of results. I click, click, click. None of them has got the right result, and I basically give up at some point in time, and search is not useful. Whereas because we understand your data, we understand that there is a concept called latency. Core 1000 is one of your products. We are able to zero down on the answer accurately. And we also, the second feature of Neuron7 is there is a feedback mechanism. We will be able to tell you, here is the content that is missing. Here are the queries that your customers are not finding answers for. And you can actually help either curate those answers or say, I agree, we don't have content around it. So that feedback loop and the human context of understanding makes us better and better. If 20% of all incoming requests from customers or from your internal people are how-to questions, or I just want an answer, I don't have an issue. And if this is accurate and this provides accuracy, it could be a huge leg up. The simple thing that we tell our customers is just test this out. It either is going to have accurate results or not. And you'll be able to very quickly in a couple of weeks, be able to test Neuron7s out. So this is our search technology, right? This is when we are trying to basically get to answers. There is also one more thing that happens in self-service mode, which is a customer may have a description or there is something called common questions that occur all the time, right? So I have a question that comes to me all the time, and I want to kind of get to the answer. And I want to get to the top cases that I see all the time. So I'm going to just copy a description from a real customer scenario, and I'm going to go in and put it in. Hey, I have an issue. This is a self-service portal. It's critical. This is my number. And I put in a description of an issue into my self-service portal. And there is a lot of customers say, I have a lot of common repeating issues that happen all the time, and I don't necessarily want to always have those issues go to my call center. Is there an automated way for these common repeating questions to get answered? So we can go in, understand the issue that the customer is having. We basically can extract things like model number, versions, and stuff like that. It will actually automatically respond because it's connected to your data sets, and also extract the sentiment of the customers saying this customer is frustrated, is not, and so on and so forth. So let's call it another 20%, right? Let's call it another 20% of your issues outside of search are things that are like license requests, things that are like version upgrades, firmware upgrades, things that happen over and over again that you should be able to solve using AI without bringing a person in the picture. And that's how our self-service portal-based technology, which is auto resolutions and search, works. Now let's basically go to the next side and say, well, maybe the search didn't work. We didn't have the answer. The customer insisted in calling the call center. And there are some people that are just much more comfortable just calling a call center. And so I'm in Salesforce. We go to tier one. In Salesforce, I actually got this particular case. The product is Snap 81. And let's say I am one of those newer customer service reps. I don't know all of your products very well. Even if I know a product, I may not have seen a particular error that often. And so Neuron7 is within your CRM tool. Again, this tool can be, you could be ServiceNow customers, Microsoft Dynamics customers. It doesn't really matter where you invoke Neuron7, but this is after we have processed all of your data. So there's a case that came in for the Snap 81 product. It says amplitude reads less than 60 dBms. The new keys don't work. And me being somebody who's brand new to the enterprise, I either am going to now escalate this case, or I could basically be lost. I could be looking at multiple different sources. Either ways, the customer experience is getting delayed. The call handling time is getting out to be too much. What Neuron7 does is it kind of says, all right, we have seen this particular issue a number of times before. And with a lot of certainty, I think the issue that you're seeing on the Snap 81 product, based on the description of the customer, we have a lot of certainty that it's a worst case scenario. You actually have two things going on. It's a software and a hardware problem. Why? Because it could kind of figure out from 100 times that this issue has happened in the past, what has been the root cause or the symptom around this particular issue. Now, keep in mind, this is natural language processing at work. Your customers have multitude of different ways of describing the issues they are seeing, and they are very different from how your people or your customer service agents describe issues. So to go to my example that I use all the time, if a computer is not starting up, somebody can say, I'm seeing a blank screen. Somebody else can say, my computer is not booting up. Somebody can simply say, I'm seeing my computer is not working. All of these mean the same thing. So your 50,000 issues may have 7 million ways that customers describe them. So Neuron7 is very good about understanding the language that your customers use to describe a particular issue. And we add that to things like the model number, any errors that are displayed, and so on and so forth. We use as much input as possible and give you predictions. So here it's telling the agent, hey, this is the symptom. It also tells the agent, here are the resolution steps that are the most often and the most recently used resolution steps to solve this particular issue, right? So you could go back to thinking about this as, all right, this probably is the number one step that was used across the 100 cases that we have seen in the past, and you may not be wrong. We actually go one step further where we want to actually give you that resolution steps, not in just what is most often used, but in terms of step-by-step directions. So just like a navigation app tells you, go 200 yards, make a right, and so on and so forth, this is actually giving you the resolution steps. And, you know, the person has to just follow these resolution steps, and you basically could get to accuracy. But let's say you have your I'm a 20-year veteran. I know this product in and out. I've seen this error a number of times. And I see Neuron7 giving me a list of suggestions. And I just absolutely do not like one of them, right? I'm like, there is no way I'm going to do a firmware upgrade on an amplitude issue. I just want to kind of do these three things. These make sense to me. I'm going to ignore it. What happens is Neuron7 is constantly learning from every implicit and explicit action that your people are taking. So if 10 people, so if this 20-year veteran kind of selects these three, we are giving these three resolution steps an upvote. We are giving this particular step a negative vote. And if this happens, let's say 7, 8, 10 times more, we will drop this particular resolution automatically from the suggestion, right? Only these three are going to show up. And this is that continuous loop of AI learning, right? And making things better and better. So we are learning and making, but what we have to imagine is what I just did, you have to imagine that for every single case, for every single product across every single person using Neuron7 to solve a case. So that learning that we are doing is happening in parallel at scale across your enterprise. You literally could have 5 cases solved in Japan and Germany and India, and US, the next person goes in the US and puts in a case that is similar. It has already learned from what happened overnight from those countries. And these resolution steps may be a lot more accurate or every single thing that you're seeing. Okay. And that is the feedback loop. So we are chasing the truth constantly within your enterprise. And that is something that has really made things more and more accurate for us. You can go in and say, all right, I got to first call resolution, or you can say, I solved as much of the issue. Maybe I could solve the software issues, but for the hardware replacement, I have no other option but to send a field service agent to the location. And at that time, when the field service agent goes in, there are more predictions from Neuron7. We'll be able to say, based on what we have to solve, send somebody with skill set level 1 or 2, make sure they have these parts on there. This is the resolution time to fix, and so on and so forth. So for us, we think about your entire service journey, every single decision that you need to make. There's decisions that dispatch needs to make. We help with that. Your tier 1 call center, we help with that. And now let's say you are at a point where you could solve a lot of the simple stuff. You could solve the stuff that is automated, right? We're able to do this, we're able to do this. But now we're at a point where issues are super complicated, right? There is no single path. There could be multiple things. Nobody said that it is going to flow. The number of issues that you're going to see is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. You could see issue number 1, and then the device or the asset could show issue number 5, and then you could go to number 7 and 3, and so on and so forth. So it's in a very complex environment. And that's why tier 1 could not solve something, search could not solve something. And we are in that complex world of field service and engineering working together. And that's where our diagnostic intelligence tool kind of comes into the picture. And where we are looking at diagnostic intelligence, the difference between the simple service predictions that we do versus diagnostic intelligence is we are able to kind of give you a list of everything that is happening worldwide with this particular device out there. So it's constantly ranking for you what is going on. And you could go in and say, I'm seeing low band input frequency. You solve that, you then see something else on the phase noise side. But you can also, this is where tribal knowledge becomes important. You can also say, I'm not seeing any of the issues that you're showing me, right? I am actually seeing something completely different. And you could type that in, and in a type ahead functionality, Neuron7 will show more and more data. It will show more and more issues that can make sense. And you can go in, and we have a dedupe engine that deduplicates all these observations coming in. But you could say, yep, I am seeing this phase noise failed issue. Now comes the next prediction that you can do. And it kind of, in a step-by-step way, takes you through the diagnosis process. So I see XYZ, then I see the next thing, then I see the next thing. And the cool thing here is we can actually override AI. So here, there are 129 similar incidents where it's learned something from. but you could say engineering wants us to go a different direction, right? We have been doing XYZ, we've been replacing this part, no more. AI is accurate, right? It's 90% certain that this is the right way to go, but we want to now go in a different direction because there is a new mandate from engineering. You could actually go put that in Neuron 7, and that can change the course of what everybody in your enterprise does from this point onward. So it's built with customers, this particular module, and it's something that really helps work on the complex issues. So let's say you have all of this stuff. There are two more things that I want to show you in terms of the multi-channel nature. Let's say I get to an accuracy that is great, and now I want to kind of use what we learned from all of these different tiers and say, can I now use that for customers themselves? Or when people are collaborating with Slack, I have 5,000 engineers and technicians. They constantly use Slack, they constantly use Teams to collaborate with each other. So whether it's a customer chatting with me or whether it is an engineer chatting with me or among themselves, can I use everything that we have learned to kind of give them immediate responses? And the answer is yes, right? So as soon as a chat message comes in with that same issue that came in the call center, Neuron 7 will have a prediction. It could either be an actual prediction that says this is what's going on, or it could be a prediction that comes in the form of KB articles, right? So what we're doing is we're constantly listening to what's going on in your chat messages or on your website, and we are trying to give you a point of view, right? Because nobody scrolls back to 3 months of data. So if you kind of think about everything that we've done, we've tried to, at each step in the way, help your AI, help using AI, your service journey. And then there is insights that get created because of everything that we are doing. And so we have service analytics. Let me just log in again, and service analytics, what it's really doing is it is using all of the data in your enterprise and everything that we have understood about your issues, and it tries to give you insights about your people, about the kind of issues that you have, about your devices, your products, all of it. So, it obviously gives you who are your top performers and so on and so forth. But let me go on to a couple of things that are my favorite, right? So I have a category insight, right, which shows me if I have this issue around anti-skimming devices, what are the people that are the champs of this particular category of issues, right? Who should I send, let's say, and you can say this particular person has solved this particular issue 57 times. The accuracy is fantastic. He or she is the right person to send to that particular. But let's say I'm seeing two things, two issues or two categories of issues. Now, the union of these two, who is the right person to send? And that is kind of the graph that we can show, where you are able to kind of drill down, and there is a relationship that can be shown across issues, people, and so on and so forth. So if I kind of take this out, right, I will actually be able to see a list of all of your issues that are going on. We'll be able to kind of go in and look at individual people, however you want to slice and dice the data, and kind of go and look at relationships between issues and categories, who are the right people, so on and so forth. You also can see what are the top things that are being done by people, right? You can see performance of individual technicians, what is the mean time to repair that we have on a particular category of issues, and so on and so forth. So overall, the analytics that we have sits on our insights that we create on. So think about AI creating the first set of insights about your cases and products and issues. And then analytics sits on top of the processed AI data to give you even a bigger level of intelligence into your world as a VP of service or a VP of field service. So incredibly powerful tools. Going back to what I just showed you, whether it's a how-to question, a common question, complex issues, engineering, collaborating with service, our job is to provide that single intelligence system that goes start to finish, that works on your data, learns from your people, captures that tribal knowledge that you desperately want to duplicate and create this very, very powerful tool or a buddy that should help every single person in your organization perform at the level of your top 1%. Just a different view of our products. Intelligence search can go across all tiers. Anybody in your company can use search. If you have 10,000 manuals and KB articles, it should be something that anybody can take advantage of, just like we use Google for our day-to-day lives. Think about this as a Google for a segment of one, which is your enterprise, understood, fine-tuned for your data, understanding your products. Automated resolutions is our way of trying to get to common issues. Service predictions is that immediate answer in 3 seconds on the root cause and so on and so forth. And then diagnostic intelligence is where that complex back and forth happens. And across the board, we are helping you get your data more and more AI ready, capturing the tribal knowledge of your entire service organization and providing you with insights and analytics. Objective is very simple. Our objective is to take you from whatever metric exists today that is your core KPI and making it better. So we want to make you guys top performers in your industry, whether it is first call resolutions, critical failures, a bunch of things that we can influence across the board in terms of metrics. And that's why we call ourselves a single system of intelligence that goes start to finish, and we help you transform every step of your customer journey. So that's what I wanted to cover. I think we are 45 minutes into the session. I think I've talked a lot, but if there are any questions, so on and so forth, I'd love to take them.
Thank you, Niken. We do have a few questions. First one is, can you talk a little bit about the setup process?
Yeah, so I think for us, we have worked for 3 years straight to make that setup process and process of getting insights from your data very, very quickly. The way we work with a customer, typically the top 3 or 4 data sources that customers ask us to look at is CRM data. Here's my past cases. Here is my KB articles. That could be Jira notes or tier 2 related notes and applications and field service and so on and so forth. And then even device or asset issues. So we take your data sets that you give us. You could give us Excel spreadsheets, doesn't matter. And we process them within a matter of a couple of weeks. And we kind of give it to you for via POC for a quick test to see how good our predictions look. And your subject matter experts can interact with our predictions. Once you are satisfied that there is super value here in the predictions, these are accurate, we can see a path of how we can make it better with our subject matter experts. That is when we basically implement this within your CRM tool. So the longest pole in the tent in on the implementation of putting this into production is actually surprisingly not the data set, but probably how we integrate it within your application. We have a Salesforce application on App Exchange. We have one in Microsoft, but obviously there may be other tools. So the setup is actually pretty quick. The long pole in the tent is the state of your data. The better the data, the quicker your subject matter experts can get to accuracy. If your data is extremely dirty or it's incomplete or inaccurate, then your subject matter experts may take a little bit more time to get it to accuracy. But you'll be pretty impressed with the first set of results that come from Neuron7.
A lot of your examples were dealt with companies that are supporting equipment and devices. We had a customer or a person ask whether Neuron7 is also a good fit for pure software companies.
Yeah. Yeah, Neuron7 is an absolute fit for software companies. We're working with a bunch of them. We have a company that does POS applications, right? So it's pure POS software. And there is both a problem of plenty, where there is a lot of different issues that can happen within the software. So there's a long tail of issues. It's not just about common issues. So both. whether it's common issues that occur in the package application or software, or whether it is, issue number, not just the top 10 issues, which are very obvious. There is very little value in just giving an obvious answer to a customer service rep that already knows the answer. But let's call it issue number 11 to 77, which is the long tail of issues. There is a ton of value, even if there is no product, there is no physical product, in terms of the insights that we can provide, in terms of going through your KB articles and finding the right answer, in terms of capturing the knowledge of how your support service is solving issues, anything to the point of where the actual code is touched. That is where we cannot help, right? We cannot tell you, obviously, that this line of code is where the issue is. That is in the engineering realm. But 80 to 90% of issues in the software world do not need a code that needs to be touched, right? And we can help with a gamut of those issues on the long tail side. So absolutely, Neuron7 does not need to work only on devices and assets. It can work on things that are chips, software, so on and so forth as well.